Welcome, welcome. This is my favorite mortgage podcast. I'm Jaimie Booth, a licensed loan officer in Arizona and Texas, and we want to thank you for listening to a newer podcast that lets you behind the curtains of the home buying, home selling, and working with realtors, working with inspection companies, things like that. So we want to thank you for joining. And today we have a first-time podcaster in person. We have Justin Smith. So thank you so much for coming on. You're a licensed loan officer as well.
I am.
And we are direct competitors, but we actually like each other. So
I didn't realize that you actually recorded that every single time.
Recorded what?
The intro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. That's why it's always kind of just winging it.
People can relate to that.
Well, we're Friday before Labor Day. What are you doing this Labor Day?
Honey-do list.
Ah.
Now, I'm actually in the process of building out a single-person camper for my truck. I'm going to do a 3-week trip, probably the end of March.
Like one of those little pods?
So I have I'm always known for the bright orange Ram. And I have a camper, just a standard camper shell on it. And I'm building out a single-person platform, and it's a short bed. So I kind of got to get creative because I'm 6 foot tall and my bed's 5'7". So
just sleep fetal position. We are in mortgage. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on. I have a little game. We like to do some fun stuff before we get into our hot topics and our full episode. And we were chit-chatting a little bit, and I want to play What's Your Ick? Do you know that one?
Let's do it.
Okay. What is your first mortgage ick? Mortgage.
Elaborate. Help me out a little bit.
Okay. So something that you wish people would do when they're driving and they kind of go over the white lines. What are they doing?
I think borrowers need to understand that we are on their side and we're a team. And I think sometimes they withhold information, not on purpose, but sometimes when they withhold that information, it kind of throws a wrench into things, and we have to backtrack in order to get it to the finish line.
Okay. So getting to the finish line, being very transparent. What about when you're driving and you want someone to do what with their car?
I'm probably not the only person that would really like to just run them off the road, but not cause harm.
Because you want them to stay in their lane.
Absolutely.
I remember.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I was trying to prep you for this.
You really were.
I was like, what the hell? We just talked about this. Passing the white lines.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know one of my mortgage icks and one of yours is when people don't stay in their lane.
Correct.
So let's elaborate a little bit on this. No hate, and if you do, so what?
It is what it is. I mean, that's one thing you're going to get from me. It's real, raw, authentic. Like, you like it, cool. If you don't, that's okay too. Right. So you have lenders, us. We're the money people. We're the ones that help get the money to the borrower to purchase the real estate.
Right.
You have realtors that are focused in showing the home. So I always tell everybody, when you have questions in regards to the house, bedrooms, backyards, bathrooms, stuff like that, don't ask me. Ask your agent. And I expect the same thing on with realtor partners as well. When they're asking about interest rates and what a buy down is and what the appraisal cost is and stuff like that, I expect them to, redirect the borrower back to me.
Kick the can back to us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm good at what I do. I have absolutely no interest being a realtor. That is why I chose the lending.
So I usually will stick with this. If it's got a dollar sign, it's me. If it has a zip code, it's them.
All right, I'm stealing that.
Yeah. It just makes it easier to remember. I asked, and you just touched on something that's one of my mortgage icks. And it's not just an ick, but it's also a message I want to put out there, especially if you don't have an NMLS number and you want to start posting. I encourage all, content creation, but Did you know that if you post an interest rate, there are certain trigger words that now fall under the TILA,
Yep.
Truth in Lending Act, and proper disclosures must be disclosed.
I mean, even me, as the lender that is licensed, I very seldom post rates.
Yeah,
I keep it general. Now, if I have a specific situation where, like right now, we're coming up on fourth quarter and potentially having another refinance boom, I'll say something to the extent of, hey, if you've had your mortgage at least 9 months and your interest rate is over X, give me a call.
Right.
Or I just locked in a borrower at X, and I'll leave it general because I've already done it. I'm not throwing it out there saying, hey, I can get you 3.99% with zero closing costs and zero, like that. That's just not my style.
You hit so many trigger words under the Truth in Lending Act. This is a federal law, guys. So please be careful to those listening that are partners that aren't licensed to disclose interest rates. Just know that there are certain trigger words, and he probably hit on 3 in that sentence that now require proper disclosures.
Absolutely.
Yep. So those are my ick. Posting interest rates. Yours is staying in your lane. Getting to the finish line.
Hey, I learned what my ick was today.
You know what? I used to date through a website for arsonists. I used to get a lot of matches. No? And then Caitlin called me the other day. And she lives in California and she's renting. And she's like, Mom, the landlord wants to come by and talk about how high my electricity bill is. You know, I've been running the AC. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what'd you say? And she goes, well, I said, come on in. The door is always open.
Yeah, we're leaving the dad jokes to Jaimie.
Those are more puns. I've been saving those. Joe knows. I'll hear something and I put it in my notes and then I have to bank them and save. I can't wait to tell people.
So you're a note taker, right?
I am a note taker. I'm in mortgage. Of course I'm a note taker with a horrible memory. Horrible memory. You asked me about someone from 2 weeks ago. I got to go check my notes.
See, that's how my processor is. Like, I remember things about borrowers from 3 years ago.
Yeah, I have a very bad.
But ask me how to spell.
I know, me too. I can't spell to save my life.
I know numbers, though.
Me too. So, Justin, what actually brought you over to mortgage? You said you've been in the game 5 years.
5 years, yeah. So this house I'm currently in, I bought back in 2016. And I was working with a local LO, loan officer, and that's still active, kind of. And throughout the process, I literally was finishing his sentences. And at that point, he kind of threw it into my head. It's like, hey, man, you'd be good at this.
What'd you do before?
So I've been in sales my whole life.
Okay.
Personally, I don't think being in mortgage is really sales. It's more consultative to me.
Right.
But the sales background before, everything from monitoring and business credit and marketing solutions for business owners to wireless. I used to be the cell phone guy in the mall.
Ah.
But this was back prior to every single kiosk greeting. Now you've got the lotion guys and the curling iron girls and the colognes and this. Yeah. We kind of invented the whole greeting thing.
Yeah.
But it was always don't greet on the product. Like, I've got a big sign above me that says T-Mobile. They know what I'm selling.
Correct.
So I get creative. And so yeah, I mean, I didn't start figuring out this game called life until probably about 35. So getting into mortgage was kind of my way to reset.
How was your first year, 2 years in mortgage? Did you make a ton of money?
The first year I was in mortgage, I made the least amount of money that I had made in over 20 years.
Me too. We made less than minimum wage. It's your first year. Do not expect to make any money.
But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Me neither.
I mean, I wish I could have had a couple more bucks, but at the end of the day, it was during COVID, like right literally
2020.
it was the beginning of 2020.
Okay.
I was in the office for 6 weeks. They gave me a laptop and said, "Go home."
Yeah.
The hell am I
Get the
supposed to do
hell out
now?
of the business or building.
So it was kind of a way for me to figure it out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cold call realtors all day long. I didn't even really know what to say.
Yeah.
So it was a way for me to kind of figure out me. Like, why am I in this industry? What am I here for? Like, why am I doing this? So it was kind of a way for me to almost like reinvent myself. Not really change who I am, but just go on a different path, I guess you would say.
I've said this before so many times. Mortgage is one of the best kept secrets to having a lifestyle of great wealth
Mhm.
if you work your ass off, but also this flexibility that's unparalleled.
Right.
I've heard realtors saying, I got in for the flexibility. And then once they're in, they realize it's got to still be boots in the ground. They got to do showings. They got to be there for inspections, where mortgage really is untethered.
Hey, give me a phone and Wi-Fi. I'm ready
That's
to rock
it.
and roll. And now we've got VPNs.
Yeah.
So
So we can, my husband and I went on our honeymoon and we were in Rome, and here I am doing prequels.
that's right.
Best kept secret. It really is.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your journey. And I did want to touch on a few things. I was speaking with an agent the other day, and we have a buyer in contract, and this is, he's putting a substantial down payment. And so the realtor asked me, well, will you give an appraisal waiver? And I said, well, I always request an appraisal waiver. His eyes, I didn't realize the unknown around the topic of appraisal waivers. So I'm interested. I want to get this out, especially to our realtor partners and buyers, on what an appraisal waiver is, how they are, accepted under underwriting, and who actually gives the appraisal waiver.
So before I get into that, the benefits of knowing certain things that we assume other people know,
Yeah,
but have absolutely no idea,
I know.
is an appraisal waiver or a PIW. It's a property inspection waiver. We really have no control over that.
None.
We use a system called AUS, which is an automated underwriting system.
Right.
We fill in the blanks, we push a button, and it gives us a yay or an A.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than that. But if it gives us a yay, it'll kind of tell us why. If it gives us an A, you got to read this foreign language.
Yeah.
They do not put it in English. Like, it's not even in a.
It's not even written for lawyers.
It's not even in a foreign language. Like, it's not even a language, and we have to kind of interpret that because underwriters will not give us a straight answer. Just like a compliance officer, it's a copy and paste. What's 2 + 2, and they say purple, and you say what's 7, or like how fast are you driving, and it's still purple. They give you the cut and paste or a copy and paste answer.
Right.
So there's in my opinion, because I mean that's really what this is I believe that the waivers happen when there's a lot of
Data.
Data, yeah, but a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here? Like kudo points, I guess you would call them, right?
Oh yeah, brownie points.
Yeah, brownie points, right?
You got a good credit
So
score.
you've got good credit. You're putting a large amount of money down,
Right.
which is making your LTV or your loan to value much larger. You have been at your job for X amount of time.
And you've got, a lot of money in assets. Maybe some money markets,
So
retirement.
it's kind of almost the opposite of a challenging file where you have different levels of risk. So like I said, if you're putting a lot of money down, it's a lower level of risk. If you've got good credit, it's a lower level of risk. And especially if the property there's been a recent transaction or there's been data that shows that it's been recently updated or new roof or this and
Right.
that, you have a better chance of getting a property inspection waiver.
Yep.
However, it's got to be a conventional loan. It cannot be a government loan.
Right.
It's one thing a lot of people don't understand. And I've caught myself not giving wrong information, But I've said, hey, I'll try. But in the back of my head, I know I'm like, wait a second, this is an FHA
VA.
loan.
Yeah.
It's VA. Like they have to get an appraisal.
Right.
Yeah. Now, if it's a refinance, a little bit different situation.
Different. That's a streamlined.
Yeah.
Appraisal waivers, like you said, are unconventional because once we hit that button, right, it is read by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, who is the investor who will eventually purchase it from us. And if they have enough information, like you said, there's recent transactions, maybe it's in a very highly transactional area, and they're comfortable with those risks, that's when they tell us. Ding.
Now, don't get your hopes up, guys. Like
they're not very confident.
In 5 years, I think I can count on one hand, purchase-wise, how many times I've got a PIW.
So when I was talking to him about it, I said, well, we request 100% of the time because the system does it for us. Yep. It's not like I'm going, I want an appraisal waiver here and not here and here. And it doesn't happen.
Because at the end of the day, appraisers wouldn't have a job if we actually had the choice. Because why would we
ever?
Why would we choose to have a borrower pay X amount of money to do it? And then it's like fingers crossed. Because at the end of the day, the appraisers kind of got everybody by the chin.
Yeah, it's a make or break sometimes.
It is.
With that report. Yep. So for anyone listening who's one of our partners, for an appraisal waiver, a lender will request it. And like Justin said, the better the file, the prettier it is, the higher the chances are. But ultimately, it's a system that will say yay or nay. And he was like, oh, I had no idea. And he's been a realtor for years.
But at the end of the day, it goes back to the stay in your lane thing.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to know.
Right. Yeah. There was something else I wanted to just touch on with you. And this was because of a recent transaction. I was helping this young lady and I was running her credit report, and there is different boxes on our credit report. There's different categories. You have open accounts, which is good. You have closed accounts, which hopefully are good. And then you have two other ones. The other two is derogatory. Mm-hmm. So that is any kind of bad incident, a late payment, a charge off, a collection, things like that. So you've got derogatory. But there's one other box, a category on our credit reports that may not have ever even been discussed or talked about, and that's disputed accounts. And I bring that up as a fire truck goes by.
I asked earlier why we wear these headphones, and now it makes sense.
Right. So disputed accounts are something, if you're working with maybe an inexperienced loan officer that doesn't understand the significance of disputed accounts and what it can do for your approval, I wanted to just touch on that because you just mentioned AUS, which is our automated underwriting system. There's a flaw, I believe. Well, there's many flaws in AUS, but one of them is they do not read the verbiage for disputed.
Nope.
And if you are working with someone and you get that AUS approval and there's a disputed account and that system is not reading it, you could have a false approval. And that false approval could get a buyer out there and the realtor partners taking them to showing them houses. Then it gets to underwriting, and this disputed account, it's not saying that you can't get a loan, but now the underwriter's going to want two things. They're going to either have you remove that, and then we got to run
AUS again,
and you may not get that approval. Or the other alternative, which I absolutely despise, I will do it on rare case by case, is being downgraded to
a manual underwrite. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
That's for next time.
Yeah.
So if anyone is listening, especially buyers, and you're getting ready to buy a house or you're in the process, please make sure that any disputed accounts are addressed before you get into contract.
And I think that's really going to come from dealing with somebody that's experienced.
Yes.
And everybody's like, well, how do you get experience? One day at a time.
Yeah.
And I think we've all learned through, the process that we may not have necessarily lost a deal, but we've had to backtrack.
Yes.
And
go fix it,
get it back on track. And of course, it's, when you're on vacation or you're at a barbecue or driving down the road. Or you're
sick with COVID.
Something. So what I kind of tell everybody is like, once we start this process, just kind of hang tight. Like, don't do anything crazy.
Right.
Don't go in there and see or do what you saw on TikTok. Be like, all right, I got a 690. If I dispute everything, I'm going to have a 720. Like, slow down. Like, if you don't know, ask. I encourage people to ask questions. One, because that's kind of how I come up with my content. Because as a borrower, if you've got a question, chances are 100 other people have that same question.
Exactly.
So one, I don't like to repeat myself. I have no problem in doing so. Like, if you truly don't understand, I'll break it down to a way that you can understand, but just slow down. Just be patient and understand that my main goal is to get you there to the finish line.
And the bottom line is, like I said before, if it has a dollar sign, talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
There's no charge to have a conversation and just have a quick review of your financial picture. Mm-hmm. And if you're not there today, we're going to help get you there. And the disputed account information is something that we'll address.
Yeah.
And this goes for newer loan officers too, guys. Don't forget to look at that. You'll get your AUS approval, and it will get kicked back for sure.
I've experienced that. Like, I run AUS, and I've got an approved eligible, and I didn't read anything.
Oh yeah.
And it'll bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
So
you got to read your results. Mortgage is absolutely my vessel and passion. And I love doing it, and I'm really good at it, and I regret not getting into it sooner. But there's something that we also have to kind of live with, is that we're a lot of times on our own. Mm-hmm. To make our mistakes or to read the guidelines and interpret it ourselves. I had an example. Are you a baseball fan? No? Yeah. Okay. There's a tradition that I just learned about in Major League Baseball that if a batter hits their very first career home run, and they go to the dugout, they get the silent treatment. And they high-five nobody. So if you ever have some time, you got to go watch the videos. I went down this rabbit hole of how they're so excited. This was their first career home run, and the other players will turn their back.
Is it like a act like you've been here before kind of thing, or what?
I don't know. I just learned that this was even a thing. And I sometimes I'm like, that's how it feels in mortgage. We got them all the way to the finish line. We got them the keys, and we're like high-fiving no one.
Yeah. I guess I can see it.
The silent treatment. You got to go. I was like an hour just watching these players, and it's now like a tradition, so it's funny. So they do it even more extravagant as time goes on, and then they'll eventually be like laughing at them.
Well, I mean, it's when it comes to like me posting like closings and this and that. Both lenders and realtors are both guilty. It's all, oh, hey, look at me, I'm number one, and I made this much money. Like, my closing posts have nothing to do with me.
Yeah, it's all about the
them.
buyer. Yeah.
Like, and then kind of sharing a little bit of story of, when you first came to me, you literally cried because you're like, I'm never going to be able to be a homeowner. Mm-hmm. And a couple months later, you are. Those are the types of families that I love helping everybody, but at the end of the day, those type of clients are the ones that truly appreciate it.
Yes.
And other viewers that are reading those stories, they're like, oh, wait, there's hope. Did it? All right, there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope. I mean, I had a borrower years ago, came to me with a 430 credit score, a negative balance in their bank account. And guess what? They're homeowners now. It took us 17 months, but she followed the necessary steps that I coached her on. And at the end of the day, I'll put in just as much work as you do.
Yeah.
And
I love those stories. We have those always in our back pocket, these special places in our heart for these buyers that, for whatever reason, life happens.
Yeah.
Divorce, death, loss of job.
Right.
And credit is forgiving. And just, we've seen enough and we've experienced it enough to where we can figure out a way. You do have to put in the hard work.
Yeah.
We'll guide you for free.
I mean, that's our job, is to find a solution.
Yep. Best job in the whole world, guys. Well, I want to thank Justin Smith, fellow loan officer, for coming on.
It's been fun.
First podcast here, right before Labor Day weekend. So we'll take off work early. No, we're not.
There's no days off.
There's no days off. I'd love to have you back on.
Cool.
And we could talk about so many stories of hope and so many success stories and lessons learned. So for anyone who is listening and wants to learn more about the home buying journey, working with either one of us, please make sure you like, rate, follow us, share this video with anyone you know that is looking to become a homeowner. We are more than happy to give our time freely to help guide you there. You are listening to My Favorite Mortgage Podcast with Jaimie Booth. We are streaming on all major platforms. You can follow us on our YouTube channel. And we want to wish everyone a happy Labor Day weekend. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.